Okay, welcome everybody. It is Wednesday, the 20th of January, 2021. Welcome to the 100 Pounders meeting of OA. Our speaker today is Lizzy V. Lizzy, can you confirm that you're okay with this being recorded?
Yes.
You are welcome now to share. Please take it away, Lizzy. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rita. Quickly, how much time do I have?
You have up to 30 minutes.
Up to 30. Wow.
Deb, how do you want your time? Sorry, I didn't even ask. How rude. Deb
Okay.
C is going to be your timer.
If I could have, I'll keep my eye on you, Deb. If you could just give me like warnings for 10 and 10 would be great. Okay.
Awesome. Take it away, Lizzy.
My name is Lizzy V, and I'm a recovered compulsive overeater, and I'm grateful to be here. Thank you so much for asking me, Rita. I feel so lucky to be recovered and present enough to be able to give service at this level. Anytime I'm asked to lead a meeting, it's always such an honor. And then, you know, the silver lining that's not so small about this pandemic is that we get to go to meetings like all over the world and be in fellowship with people that we would never ordinarily cross paths with. And it's just the blessing is not lost on me. I want to welcome the newcomers. I don't know most of you here. I do see some of my God Squad, my posse in the room, and I'm so grateful that you guys all came. But anybody who's new or you're struggling, just keep coming back. That's the one thing. If I don't say anything today that you identify with, that's okay. I'm not a mouthpiece for Overeaters Anonymous, and keep coming to meetings because I'm sure if you made it to OA, you probably want to keep checking out meetings until you hear your story, because we don't come here if we feel like there's a lot of other options, right? We come to OA when we're like, well, I guess I'll try that thing because I don't have any other choices. So that was my story. So let me just tell you a little bit about what it was like, and just in terms of the numbers, get those out of the way. My top weight is 250 pounds. I'm down about 85 from my top weight. I'm still working on, I am not doing anything I except for continuing to surrender, but there's another 15 or ish that needs to go, 15 plus, that are deeply spiritual. There's nothing really in my consciousness that is, it's mostly like a relationship with my higher power, how those pounds need to get released. I have been around the rooms of Overeaters Anonymous for, I want to say close to 20 years. And I have, today is the 20th. In 3 days, I'll celebrate 4 years of abstinence. So thank you. The math on that, as you can tell, is not exactly right. Been around a long time and have coming up on 4 years of abstinence. And here's what happened. I was actually raised in the rooms of this is my story. So this is not, I was raised in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, literally in diapers, running around in clubhouses in Los Angeles with my folks, my mom and my stepdad. And we had a pretty chaotic household. Just because people are sober don't mean they're well necessarily. And so there was a lot of drama and some, abuse. And early on, I'm so glad my folks were sober, because if they hadn't been, even though things were crazy, if they hadn't been, and there were other drugs around, I would have picked those up. I thank God for the cookies, you guys, and the deep freezer fill in the blanks drugs, because if there was heroin around, I probably would have picked it up. But there wasn't. There was cookies, and I'm so grateful today because I can see so clearly how the food was the solution, and it wasn't really, the food wasn't the problem. It was the answer to all my problems. So, I started experiencing adversity in childhood, a lot of drama, started eating. And then I hit puberty and I ballooned up and was just kind of big. And because I had dissociated from my body because of all of the trauma, I didn't really even know that I was a fat teenager. back, in my 20s, and was very like active, very outgoing. I was not like a shy kid. And I started taking voice lessons no, actually, I'm going to back this one up. I remember being 17 years old and at a party in high school, and my best friend at the time, I was a cheerleader, over like size 16, 18 in a cheerleading skirt, like well over 200 pounds. And another varsity cheerleader was like, Lizzie, you're so pretty. If you were thin, you'd be like so pretty. And I was like, yeah, I've heard that one before 1,000 times. And she said, let me take you into the bathroom and show you how to be thin, how to be skinny. And I was like, okay, don't know what you're talking about. And we went into the bathroom and she tried to teach me how to throw up. And I couldn't find the button. I could not figure it out. And I just decided in that moment, well, I guess I'm never going to be thin. I just associated, well, if I can't get rid of my food, I'm never going to be able to maintain my weight, maintain a thin weight. But fast forward a couple of years, and I had a voice coach who held up his pinky point finger to me, and he said, if you're this big, I could get you a record deal. And wouldn't you know, I wanted to be the size of a pinky. I mean, I never knew I wanted to be a pinky size before, but in that moment I decided, and started really, that for me, there are a lot of fat people in the world who don't really identify it as a problem, or they're not in touch with the obsession around it. They're just like, maybe Santa Claus is like at the top of that list. But for me, I woke up in that moment to like, oh, I am not okay. The state that I am in right now, it's the equal sign, just you have to change, completely change. So that's really when the diseased thinking kicked in for me. And I began the most violent, compulsive diet, exercise programs I possibly could to try to get the weight off. And it worked for a while. But I caused a lot of damage to my body, as many of you may know, have personal experience with, a lot of like over exercising, exercise bulimia, where, I wouldn't go to bed without the number on the treadmill matching the amount of calories that I had consumed that day. And those periods of time were pretty brief because they were always, as the big book says, followed by a still worse relapse. And there's a reason why that I'm putting so much emphasis on the beginning, because I want to paint a picture of the hopelessness. You guys, I had to drop out of college in my second year for the semester because I burned all the cartilage out of my knees from over exercising, at like 21 years old. That's pretty unmanageable, right? It's pretty hopeless. And I still didn't stop. It was just sort of like the thing that I was doing. That was the diet du jour of that time. And then I was on another crazy diet du jour with my friends, because I had a bunch of friends who were in collusion with my need to weigh less. And I was convinced at the beginning of this particular diet I was going to win. We did this competition with all of us. And the details of it don't matter. What matters is I hit my first bottom. I remember being like 20 years old, maybe 21, rocking back and forth on the couch at my mom's house, I was basically detoxing. Like, I have the shakes, I have the sweats. It's like day 3 of this diet. And my mom walked in and she knew what was happening. Thank God she had, sobriety in her background. She was like, there's a program for you. And at that point, I had tried so many things, legal and illegal, getting pregnant lady urine shots, like all the things. I don't know if any of you have tried the like those nutty ones, but I'm sure some of you might have. And I was desperate for the pain to stop. I actually had no idea what I was getting into when I walked into the rooms of Readers Anonymous, but I knew that I was willing to try something. And you know what, even with that level of desperation, I didn't get it for maybe a year and a half, but I kept coming. I kept trying on different abstinences. And the thing that was true for me then was nobody, I'm sure people were talking about this, but nobody in my immediate sphere were talking about being sober with your food, clearing the allergy of the body, and focusing on the spiritual awakening, which is really the thing that we're after: a personality rearrangement, a spiritual, awakening, so that we're a different people when we interact with the world, so we don't continue to create the same cycles. Nobody was talking about that. Or, it missed me. That memo missed me. So eventually, though, I did get it. I got abstinent, got it, thanks Debs, and I began working with a sponsor who, for some reason, and this is the thing about sponsorship, I could hear her. I don't know why. I had tried lots of previous sponsors before this one I started working with that I got. But for some reason, the clouds parted, and I was able to hear this woman when she gave me direction. And I was, even though I'd been coming around the rooms for a year and a half or plus, I wasn't able to really make any changes on my own until I started working with a sponsor whose direction I was willing to take. And I started to recover. It was an experience that I had never had. So the weight started to come off. I started to recover. I got myself in the middle of the herd to the best of my ability. I started working the steps. I started doing all the things she told me to do, and I got better. One of the here's an example of what got better. As a child of in an abusive household, one of the things that I used to do in my diseased behavior was turn my aggression inward, because I couldn't imagine aggressing outward like the way I saw my mom and stepdad do. But I would turn my aggression inward, and I would hit myself when I would make a mistake. And I would always do it in a place where no one would see it. So it wasn't like I was getting busted, but I would do that to myself. And I remember not feeling like there was any way that I would ever be able to stop. It was an addiction. The self-harm was an addiction. And started to work the steps. And I remember looking in the mirror one day and realizing the fog had cleared, and I could not remember the last time I had done that behavior, like the self-harming. And that was just a tiny gift, but the bigger gift there was being able to walk around in a size 8 and not be on a diet and not be nuts. So it was a life beyond my wildest dreams. I got married in early abstinence. I'm sure none of you are going to be surprised by this. I married an alcoholic. Ta-da! And, but not a sober one. And, but it was familiar, and I could fix him, don't you know? And at a certain point, that thing unraveled too. But guess what? I let go of the most important thing to me. I let go of my abstinence, and it was not a switch that flipped. It was a slow fade from vibrancy to black and white sepia tone dullness. And I think that the thing that I want to emphasize here about relapse, for me, it could be different for other people. So take this for what it's worth. My relapse did not begin with the food. The relapse began with letting go of the structures I had in place for my life to work around program. It started with, well, my husband's drunk a lot, so I'm gonna let go of my OA meetings and swap them out for a different program. I'm gonna not calling in my food. That's not really that big of a deal. Is it that big of a deal? I'm gonna start, the little things that kept me sane started to fade away. And then eventually, you guys, I woke up and I was 100 pounds overweight. Isn't that weird? Not really. It just sort of happened. And it was an unconscious thing. It wasn't like I was walking through the grocery store one day and I was like, I would like to eat compulsively. It just did not work like that for me. It was a very slow burn. And the thing that I experienced was I never really left in this relapse. I would come back to meetings, overweight. And by the way, when I came to program the first time, I did not have 100 pounds to lose. I had like 70 pounds to lose. But the saying, there's a bottom below the bottom, and it was true for me. So I would come to meetings and be like, it was almost like you guys were just speaking some made up language from childhood. There was like nothing that made sense to me except for that I knew that I had a life problem that was not going to be solved with pills and shakes. Like there were some things I tried in my relapse to like pull myself together. Like, let's try CrossFit. There's nothing wrong with CrossFit, but like, that's not the answer to my spiritual malady. In the beginning of the big book, it says, we are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. And that felt so elusive to me during this time, this relapse. Like I had no hope that I was going to be able to have recovered. And then I had another wake up moment. I was backpacking or whatever. I was traveling through Europe, summer of 2016, and I weighed in at a nice little 250, and it didn't cross my mind that was even a thing. And it was just like it was past the milk kind of. I weighed 250 pounds, busting out of a 26. And I remember my best friend and I were traveling together, and we were doing a little photo shoot. Oh, Rita, do you have that photo? We were doing a little photo shoot, and I saw myself. This is me on the left in somewhere in Italy, I think. And I was like posing, like, oh my gosh, you guys, I'm so cute. And I looked at myself in the camera, and I was like, I saw myself for the first time, like, oh my God, you're really like, oh, I see what it is now. So, I mean, none of my clothes fit. I was wearing like an entire bike suit underneath this dress because I was chafing, uncomfortably so, wearing like deodorant on all parts of my body that were rubbing on other parts of itself. Like nothing about my life was bearable or manageable, even though on the surface, like I was backpacking through Europe and was very flashy. It was so painful. You can unshare that now. Anyway, the point is, I realized like, oh, I have to go back away in a real way, not just, am I past 20, Debs? Okay. So when I came back to the States, I started really committing to going back to meetings. But they say in program, there's an easy way to do program and there's a hard way to do program. I don't know if you guys have heard this. I just heard someone say this. The hard way to do this program is to just go to meetings. And I started going back to meetings, and I still couldn't get it. I don't know why I couldn't get it. And I had this moment. It was like another Monday, that I woke up and I was like, I'm going to start today. And by, the late afternoon, again, I was like going out of my mind. And there was a meeting that Monday night, one of the meetings, my home meetings. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to ask whoever says yes I'm just going to ask for a sponsor tonight. Like I remember when I got it the last time, that was the thing that helped me stay stopped. It was a sponsor. So whoever says yes on this column, I'm going to ask them. And it was like a bargaining thing with God, even though at the time I didn't really believe. And I walked into that meeting, and I looked at the sign-in sheet, and the first person who put their name on the sheet was like, are you kidding me? Really? This is who I have to ask? It was the first yes. And I actually don't know that there was any other yeses on that sheet that night. It was just like, and sometimes there's a small window of opportunity to like move on a thing that you need to do for yourself. And that was my window. And I knew it. It was like some match had been lit underneath me, and it was like my life depended on it. And it turned out it did, you know? And I sort of like, I mean, because this woman who had said, yes, she would sponsor, I'd known her for, you know, the whole time that I'd been in and out, in and out. And she intimidated me because she actually worked a program. I'm not going to say she worked a hard program. She would have got it. Thanks, Debs. She just worked a program, and was that, you know, she had all the things that I wanted. And I was so in my mind far away from ever being able to have those things that it was like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to do what she does to get what she has. But never mind, I just was desperate. And so that's what I pray for any of you who are here and you're hurting. I pray that you are desperate. I pray that you're desperate enough to do whatever your sponsor says to recover. And so when I called this woman, she never has spaces. You know, she's never available. People don't, you know, she had a space open. And this makes me cry. She was going through the requirements of like what she asked of her sponsees, and I don't know why. I just was willing. I was willing to do all the things she asked. And you guys, that night changed my life. I called her after the meeting that night. I didn't wait till the next morning. I didn't wait till the next Monday. I called her then. And, you know, there were a number of things that she required. And I look back on them and I still do those things today, you know. But the most important one is that I am in the literature, and I'm giving service, and I have a relationship with my higher power. Because all the details of what she requires are really kind of irrelevant here. Like what's really, what is relevant is that she walked me and continues to this day. I have the same sponsor today, who's on this call. She walks me, she holds my hand and she walks me through the steps. We work the steps as they're outlined in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And she helps me have a relationship with my higher power. And she helped because, you know, she's my friend, but she's my sponsor. And she has a different level of permission with me that like a lot of people don't have in my life. And she gets to tell me the truth, and I'm so grateful because, you know, as a bright and shining person, sometimes people are shy to tell me when they see me like acting a fool. And my sponsor is not shy to tell me these things. And in my experience, I don't want to have a sponsor who kumbayas me to death. I need a sponsor who's going to tell me the truth. You know, I had an experience this past weekend with her, where something happened, and because of something completely unrelated to my relationship with her, you know, childhood stuff, I interpreted this like thing as like, oh, I'm bad. What did I do wrong here? And when I talked to her yesterday, she reminded me like selfishness and self-centeredness are the root of most of my problems. Like the thing that I was interpreting, it was a misinterpretation, and it's all because I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like all my attention is pointed on me. Like there's a new way of living, and I get to have that because I have somebody who knows me, who's taken me through the steps, and who is willing to tell me the truth. So what I do today, I obviously abstain. I am working toward and maintaining this weight. My clothes all fit. There's zero drama when I walk to go get dressed at the closet, which is, you know, a phenomenon that did not exist inside relapse for me. There's like the only drama in my clothes life is like, oh, when something I've washed it so many times that like it's sort of like ugly and has those little lint balls on them, and it's like, oh, I don't want to wear this anymore. It doesn't feel nice to me to wear. It's not because like oh, I don't, let's play the lottery on like what size I'm going to fit today. I have a relationship today. Oh, when I said I married an alcoholic, I also divorced that alcoholic, and not because he was an alcoholic, but because we grew apart. I've been divorced for 6 years, and I'm in a relationship today with a healthy human being that's a direct result of working the 12 steps of this program. Like, if I hadn't cleaned up my side of the street, there's no way I could be in a conscious, wakeful relationship that I'm in because of this program. And I get to stay in it because of this program, because of my sisters in this program, because I'm honest with my sponsor about what's going on in my life. And I practice these principles. I try to practice these principles in all my affairs. That part in the 12 steps, it says like, we are not saints. The point is, we're trying to grow along spiritual lines. We practice progress, not perfection. A lot of times people interpret that incorrectly. They talk about like progress around the food. Like, sure, that the road is going to always get narrower, but what the big book's not talking about the food. Big book's talking about spiritual principles, the way we show up in our lives. We're always striving to be more right-sized. That's it. Striving to be right-sized and plugged into our higher powers. And sometimes we mess it up, but we have a design for living. The big book of Alcoholics Anonymous is designed for how to our way of life has its advantages for all. And so, like, if you're here and you're not sure if you're one of us, I would say there's still something for you here. The 12 steps of this program are designed for living that can make your life better, even if you're not sure if you are a compulsive overeater. So I would say, stick around. Don't leave before the miracle happens for you. I'm pretty headstrong and obstinate, and if it can happen for me, it can happen for anybody. And again, I'm so grateful. Thank you for asking me, Rita. Thank you to everybody who's here. Welcome to all of you newcomers. Keep coming back, and thank you for letting me be of service. Turning it over to you.
Thank you so much. I'm now going to turn off the recording, Lizzie. That was wonderful. Guys, can we all give Lizzie